installation. I love to consider the space and the viewer's experience of the space, and that's very important to me. So if someone had the space in their home to purchase and like have, I mean, I even love the low lighting. People usually don't like low lighting with paintings, but I sort of like the intimacy of it, and I think that that's, you know, a big part of my work is capturing something like that.
The other thing that's hard to convey to people is that they don't have to have that. And I think that, you know, there is a separation between what they might see on site versus, oh, I love the painting, I'll take the painting, I'll ship it off to Hungary.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're not going to ship you there to fill it in, but, you know, maybe they would.
I just find that kind of interesting, though, because it seems to me that they're having a more of an emotional reaction to it because that's there, and I like that about it.
Oh, yeah.
They're putting themselves in the place of this figure here and having more of that emotional response to it. I guess I didn't talk about the little paintings so much. I should do that. I guess I forgot about them. They're different, and I want to talk about them a little because they're not the larger space of the ruin, but I play around with the idea of fragments with them, where I'm spending huge amounts of time going through museum collections online and finding what random fragments I can find, or even like going to visit museums and thinking about, you know, like, okay, so here's a museum that has like this little bit of cloth that's like this big and it's supposedly important, and I just to be able to put this in context because it comes from 20,000 years ago or whatever, you know. And so I was thinking about this idea of that we completely lose the context of these fragments. We don't have the final form. We don't even have an image of the final form. So how do we think about them? How do we place them? And how do we try to ascribe them some kind of importance in our own minds? And so that's what these are. I'll take a fragment and maybe even like break it apart further, and then have these figures interact with them in different ways. And so I sort of see them as these sort of little pets, the larger whole.
I guess that's what I wanted to convey is I want to extend you a compliment. For me, the layers of thought-provoking images that you've created in each painting could be a caution, because you could feel like I put too much information in this, but you've put so much thought, and every little layer could convey in some realities a very busy painting. From my perspective, it actually is not visually busy. And as you reveal each layer, it becomes that much more interesting. I find that really amazing and a compliment to your work, frankly, because I know when I first walked in the room, truthfully, I knew nothing of the work. I was just intrigued by the synopsis that Ira issued. But, I mean, the layers that you put into this thought and intellect, I feel, the pets that you've added to each, and the consistent threads that you have that tie each piece together and then that are not only symbiotic, but somewhat complementary, and then the painting itself has so many different ideas and vignettes that have some sort of chord and rhythm that it doesn't get visually too stimulating that it's hard to accept. For me, it's very welcoming, and I think that's a little compliment. Yeah, it's cool.
That's excellent observation, because I feel the exact same way.
I guess, you know, the other things I would mention is maybe like a couple of some influences. I'm certainly really interested in Orientalist art, that historical period with these, and this sort of idea of that, because like thinking back in time and how travel was less apparent and how these artists would occasionally be able to travel and see these places, what types of things that they would pick out. And it was always surrounded surrounding this idea of spectacle, of what was new, what was different, and what was exotic. So looking at a lot of these paintings, they have this sort of feeling of that. And I wonder, I think about, you know, what's going on in contemporary times and how that we start to know cultures more and more with the communication that we now have, but how much misinterpretation is going on still even today. So I kind of play with the idea, I'm interested in it. Certainly other, you know, contemporary artists that I look to, I spent a lot of time just studying artists that weren't even painters, you know, just thinking about how I could take another medium and translate it into painting in different ways. So I was looking at a lot of video artists like Bill Viola, Pippa Wist, Jessica Stockholder, other installation artists. So that's kind of really what I'm interested in is like, how can you make a painting feel as luscious as, the bright color that you would see on the video footage or something like that. And sort of really try to push painting into a different realm in a different way, I guess. Other questions?
Okay, I'm always interested in time. How long does it
That's a good
take
question.
to create? Maybe, and it might take years just from, as you said, simmering in the back of your head till you put something down on the canvas and you feel like it's finished.
I think deadlines make a big difference. Because honestly, I've never produced this much work in such a short period of time, and tried to do my job at the same time before in my life. This work was all done last semester.
Wow.
Through the Christmas break. I think I had only the one upstairs started, and then I ended up not liking it as well with the rest of them, so we put it upstairs, and everything else was done. And this one I finished the night before the opening at 1 a.m. Different ones, depending on the size. Like this one would take me 6 weeks. That one would take me 4 weeks because I was on the schedule. I had it like on my computer, and if I didn't stay on the schedule, like getting the pattern done this day, then I wouldn't get the work done, and I was under deadline, and I felt it was really important to do so. And it was the same with the installation. 3 days, and I'm freaking out and wondering if that's going to turn out, and calling people and stuff like that. So but it's exciting. I think having that energy sort of spur you on, right?
Yeah, it would seem to be, it would create some energy flow.
I have one other question. I think you said that architecture was one of your interests, and as well maths. And I was wondering if Bath, England, had
Yes, I
come into your
visited
work.
there when I did my study abroad when I was 21. And I don't think it has come into my work because I'm afraid of utilizing certain spaces that are like so recognizable that it would be hard to sort of even transform it into something else.
It kind of comes out in this piece to me, actually, because it's got, the Roman elements as well as like the bathers and things. And I was just kind of wondering if...
But I think that when I visited there, I had no idea that I would be making this work at that time. I was so young. But it was interesting. It did strike me going there in particular, and I remember visiting it very distinctly.
I'd like to ask Angelo a question. Angelo helped with the, painting this piece onto the wall. And what was that experience like for you in taking that kind of direction from an artist, knowing that, it's such a captivating and central...
Honestly, it really helped me appreciate, I've recognized some of Melissa's mark making and very consistent mark making in her work, but I never really thought about it that much, because in my own work I kind of just throw it on there however I feel like, and I started realizing how controlled kind of her marks are, and I was trying to emulate her mark and realizing there's just such a consistency, and it really gave me an appreciation for her mark making a lot, honestly.
Cool.
That's probably the challenge. I'm telling him, you have to get it wetter.
Yeah, I was like, too dry, too wet, too dry.
Too dry. Anything else?
I guess, like I said,
Sure.
I guess I'm shy, but not only do you display this work here, but even in the classroom studio, she really is pushes the envelope with every student there equally and the same, and I just want to applaud you for
Well, that's a very nice comment, and I equally will say, I've been so impressed with Melissa and her fortitude to do everything that she does and still execute an exhibition that I think is probably one of the best that we've hosted. I have a tendency to say that about a lot of our shows, but this is so far-reaching to me, and I really find it to be fascinating. And we've got one more week left for the show. I hope that you might encourage others to come and experience it as well. And I want to say thanks to everybody for coming and supporting the talk. So thanks.